Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The mission of the Army Space and Missile Defense Command hasn't changed. It has grown more complicated, though, with the advent of drone warfare and other threats. At this week's Association of the U.S. Army Conference, I got an update when I spoke with Commander Lieutenant General Sean Gainey.
We have a global mission focused on, obviously, Army space and missile defense. My command is a dispersed command. My command is a global command. Serves as the Army Service Component Command for U.S. Spacecom, where we provide assigned forces via my 1st Space Brigade to Spacecom. We also serve as the Army Service Component Command to Northcom, where we provide GMD missile defense forces to protect the homeland. And I'm also the Army Service Component Command for Stratcom, where we serve in that role with some of our various intel functions, but also in our full Army Service Component Command. And within my command, we have a tech center that develops prototyping in the space and missile defense arena. I have 2 Army capability managers that develop space capabilities and Army missile defense capabilities. And I also have a Center of Excellence where we do our own internal .mil PF training, education within the command. And I highlighted my subordinate brigade commands, 1st Space Brigade and the 100th GMD. And finally, last but not least, I also serve as the senior commander for Alaska in Kwajalein. So a very dispersed command, a lot of great mission sets, and keeps me busy.
So if something came in over the air from North Korea, say, to Alaska, it becomes your responsibility.
Yes, it does.
And just a quick question. I always wondered, especially reading about some of the recent drone incursions over U.S. bases that have occurred. That was reported, I think, in the last couple of days. And there are strictures against what we can shoot at, over U.S. soil because of a lot of concerns. But you do have the authority to shoot down something incoming from another nation if it's a missile, right?
Yeah, and there's several procedures that are put in place, mainly Northcom. The ability of the Northcom commander, anything that threatens the homeland falls within his purview, and he has the authorities and procedures working through the National Command Center and eventually through the Secretary and the President to be able to execute as necessary.
All right. Let's talk about some of the things you've been emphasizing here at the AUSA show. One is, and I've seen this in several instances, the Army needs to increase space capability. And maybe let's talk the difference between capability and actually having the assets.
Yep. Great. Yeah. So as we all know, in the multi-domain fight, the ability of our adversary to degrade, deny, disrupt our ability to leverage space-based assets is constantly increasing. So as the Army continues to invest in how do we gain advantages in and through space, mainly from a terrestrial perspective, we are developing capability. We have capability that we fielded to our formations. We have capability that's deployed right now executing our mission. So where we continue to focus is we're listening to the warfighter as the capability we have out there, and we're getting more tactical, more mobile, because as the threat evolves, we have to evolve also. And I talked to you about the advantage of having a internal S&T through our tech center, internal ACM. We're able to invest in S&T, build prototypes, and then test it with my 1st Space Brigade or get it out to the multi-domain task force to be able to move fast and transform in contact. We take the capability we have now and make it better or add on to it to develop better capability.
And by the way, do you use the SBIR mechanism to do some of that science and technology development?
Yes. So we leverage all available opportunities out there to be able to rapidly develop, get capability out there to our force. So whatever that mechanism is we can leverage to use, we look to leverage it.
So it sounds like relative to, say, 20 years ago, you used space assets routinely to help in the missile defense domain or operation, but now it is the assets in space themselves that used to be taken for granted that you have to worry about.
Yeah, so that's great. I was talking to my aide. Glad you brought that up. Prior to coming in here, we were talking about space, and my missile defense side gets a lot of publicity because you can see it. You can see the missiles coming in, you can shoot the missiles down, and so everybody understands it's important. It's hard to understand the importance of space, and so we had a little dialogue, and I go, I understand the importance because I remember when I was a lieutenant, we didn't leverage space as much. So if we had a SATCOM phone or a Iridium phone, we could pick it up. It was like the golden egg, and we could talk all over pretty much the world with it. And when we got auto emplacement into our systems, leveraging GPS so you didn't have to manually emplace the system, this is a game changer. So we appreciated the space asset. Now, the generation now, I don't want to say it's taken for granted, but this is the way it is, and they really don't see it a different way. So when you introduce a disrupted, denied, degraded environment, it's not until then do you really appreciate what has to be done to gain advantage to protect our equities with space. So you're right. Over the years, you can see that vast change in improvements for the good, but what happens if that good is degraded or taken away? And that's where we come in to try to ensure that. And, Spacecom's motto is not a day without space. So that's what we try to uphold.
All right, so the Army's space vision, then, how would you summarize it?
The space vision is to do exactly what you highlighted up front, and what I highlighted up is to build the knowledge and the expertise inside of the formation up and down, from Army senior leaders all the way down to the tactical warfighter. And so all of our soldiers, leaders, formations truly understand how to employ space capabilities and how do we integrate it down to the tactical level so we see those advantages and our soldiers understand those advantages. And all of our soldiers are players, not just the space formations, but everybody on the battlefield is a player within space because they understand it and know how to operate in it.
We're speaking with Lieutenant General Sean Gainey. He's commander of the Space and Missile Defense Command. We're here on the noisy show floor of the Association of the U.S. Army with some videos running in the background, so we're not really being fired at. And in the missile domain itself, let's take space operations and space control for granted for a moment. What is changing in what it is we need to defend against in the missile? My main question is, what about drones? Is that coming into the missile? I mean, that seems to be the emerging threat.
Yeah. So first of all, that's a cool video you were just talking about where it's showing exactly that. It was showing one of our Stryker vehicles, our Sergeant York, with the Stinger pods on it, maneuvering, taking down either drones or helicopters or whatever.
Of course, that's an animation, so
it is.
Let's hope they can really do it.
And it's a cool animation. It's pretty high speed. But my previous job prior to being a commander of Space and Missile Defense Command, I was the director of the Joint Counter UAS office, so got to see this problem set up near and dear and close. And the change in warfare has really impacted on how we modernize air and missile defense moving forward. We can no longer focus on a certain threat in a certain direction. We now have to think, we're under constant surveillance. We have to employ a 360-degree approach, layered, all integrated into a common C2, whether we're going after missiles, whether we're going after helicopters, or we're going after drones. The drone warfare has completely changed that, because if you look out now, you can see where anybody can buy them. They can buy several of them, and they can try to saturate your ability to defend, pretty much changing the calculus on the battlefield. So we, as the Army, are moving out. Our modernization strategy accounts for drones through advanced tactical ballistic missiles and cruise missiles, and we're moving forward, all integrated to our integrated battle command system to be able to layer capability, current capability and future capability like lasers, high-powered microwave, all integrated into a common C2 to be able to deliver the effects we need on a complex battlefield of today.
Right, because the effects you need are at something that is lower and slower, basically, than traditional missiles that might come from Russia.
Correct. And that's the new approach. The previous approach was to focus on those more advanced threats and not have a lot of focus. So, within Space and Missile Defense Command, we're moving out. We're updating the 2012 Air and Missile Defense Strategy and the 2015 Air and Missile Defense Waypoint to the strategy and the 2028 vision to really focus in on taking the transformation we're doing, how we're fighting today, but how we have to be able to fight in 2040 to not only get after these complex threats of today, but the emerging threats that we see out there. So keeping our eye on the ball in the future while attacking the problem sets that we see today.